Hi and welcome to the QRI-5 Chapter 2. This is a research perspective. Reading acquisition based on a developmental perspective. The first stage is the logographic visual stage. It's a very visual cueing, a reading or awareness stage. Our students use print to understand for language and meaning. When our students see those golden arches, they know that that is McDonald's. When the students see those characters on the boxes of cereal when they're in the grocery store, it's not that they can read that box of cereal, but there's an association with that logo or that character, and they know that that's the cereal that they want or they like. Huge industry in advertising based on logographics. The next stage is the semi-alphabetic accuracy stage, which has to do with an emerging knowledge of grapheme-phoneme relationships. They focus on letters and sounds, usually in the initial onset or the final position. They have some difficulty acquiring meaning from print without the aid of the context. So it's semi-alphabetic, some of the alphabet. So initial onset is usually a sound that they're going to get. So they'll say a word or a word that is similar with the same beginning sound. Sometimes using beginning and jumping to the end with it having the incorrect medial or vowel sound. The next stage is the controlled word recognition stage. Full use of letter-sound relationships, but it's often slow and laboriously. They rely less on the context. They're using their word chunks and their patterns. They're looking for word families. The next stage is the sight word or automatic word recognition. They recognize many words automatically and accurately without having to sound them out. So within that 1 second or upon sight, the word is recognized. The last stage is the strategic reading stage. My students have mastered words. Word recognition skills are in place. They're very familiar with text. They read with fluency, and so they can comprehend it. They comprehend the text mainly because they're not having to spend any time or energy deciding and deciphering unknown words. Factors related to comprehension. Text structure. Text structure is going to play into a child's ability to comprehend. We have narrative text, which are easy to recall and comprehend, especially if we have been a child that has been read to since a very early age. We've probably had lots of exposure to narrative text. We understand that there are story elements, character, setting, plot, and so that's what we're looking for. If we suddenly give them an expository text, if it's a content that they're not familiar with, they may not do as well. They may not perform as well because it doesn't have the characters, the setting, and the plot. It's a totally different structure. My students need to be taught the expository structure types and how to read and comprehend that type of information. Prior knowledge. Research has shown that students who have prior knowledge about a concept or idea tend to score higher in comprehension if they're already familiar, have prior knowledge about the content. Oral and silent reading. Typically, my poor readers who are at the 4th grade level and below comprehend better when reading orally. My fluent readers, on the other hand, read faster silently than orally. When we're reading, and we're reading silently as a skilled reader, we read faster because we don't have to stop and pronounce a and at and it and the and of. We skip over those words. But if we are reading a difficult text, if someone asks us to suddenly read a medical journal or a medical article, and we're reading and we don't comprehend, we're going to automatically start to subvocalize. So my poor readers need to read orally. They need to see it, say it, and hear it, just like if we suddenly read a much more difficult text. So oral versus silent is going to play a factor into my child's ability to read, if it's a strength or not. Questions and look back. We have explicit questions, which are right there, basic lower level questions, and we have implicit questions where my students have to infer, a little more difficult. We have low-level inferencing and high-level inferencing. The low-level inferencing are still relatively obvious answers. My higher-level inferencing questions ask my students to move beyond the text, to predict, to hypothesize, to reconstruct information, and to form opinions. We also have response items where they address the significance or meaning of the passage as a whole. Lookbacks are when I allow my student, after I've asked all questions, to go back. I now give them the material, ask them a question again to clarify, see if they can skim and scan, locate the information, and clarify. Again, I do lookbacks with those individuals who have the concept to skim and scan. The next factor is retelling. Retelling is difficult and time-consuming on your part to score. I highly recommend with the retelling that you tape it. I, on a sheet of paper, mark and score the retelling. As they state an idea, I write it on a line. Next idea, the next line. Then at my leisure, I go back on the scoring sheets and I will number the concepts in the order in which they told me and then score it. Recalling can be limiting in my understanding of a child's comprehension. It doesn't necessarily give me the whole picture of their ability to understand, to read and understand. It does tell me their ability to recall without any aid on my part to activate what I'm looking for with giving them the question. In a narrative text, they may be able to recall because they understand the story elements. They may not be as successful to retell on their own an expository text because they may not understand and be very clear on main idea, what were those supporting details, or cause and effects. A lot of times it depends upon how much exposure they have had to this type of text. Think alouds. These are for my skilled readers, those with prior knowledge that can employ such a strategy. They use more varied thinking, and they use strategies to comprehend, and they're able to verbalize those processes. What this data can tell me, if I can get them to do a think aloud, is which strategies are they using, which strategies are they employing, which ones are they not using that they should be employing, or if they aren't able to actually verbalize their thinking process, I would then know that I need to give instruction, I need to model what a think aloud is. Maybe they're not making that mental picture, which is crucial for comprehension. We have factors related to word identification, speed and automaticity. So speed is within that second, and automaticity has to do with the accurately. Ability to identify words accurately and quickly are characteristics of very skilled readers. We have to be very careful when we talk about speed with our students today, because we tend to make speed readers that can identify words very accurately, but they lack the comprehension to truly understand what they're reading. So I know speed is important, but my concern is that we just don't make fast word readers. We need them to be able to comprehend the text, which is just as important. Knowledge of letter sound matching. When they are doing their oral reading of the words on the word list, you are writing and scoring exactly what they say. If they say the correct word, you put a check. Do they do it automatically within the second, or did they do it with longer than a check mark? If they give an incorrect response, please record the word that they said and write it to the best of your phonetic ability. We want to know what letters and sounds are they getting correct and where is the breakdown. Do they have initial onsets, the first sound correct? Do they have the medial vowel sounds correct? Do they have the ending final sounds correct? You're also doing the letter sound matching when they're doing the oral reading. You are marking their miscues on the passages. Again, to go back and identify, where's the breakdown on the word? Do they have the initial onset correct, medial, as well as ending sound correct? Dialects. You must be very sensitive to dialects, and dialects are not counted as an error. If it's a dialect, if it's a speech problem, then it's something that I want to note and get with my speech and language therapist. Factors related to the use of an informal reading inventory. The passage leveling is an estimate only. It uses a variety of computer formulas and decided if that's the red level if 2 out of the 3 formulas do agree on that passage level. In regard to RTI, an informal reading inventory may be used to screen or progress monitor in all 3 tiers of the RTI.